Greetings and welcome everyone to episode number 8 of the Creative Outlet Podcast. As always, my name is Brandon Pudwell, your host for the good old C.O.P. on March 5th, 2021. And man, already the spring semester is off to a better start than the fall semester, considering that I'm actually recording something that's within the middle of the semester. So clearly that means school is probably doing a little better. I wouldn't say it's going a lot of better, but it's at least going a little better. And part of that has to do with like, hey, I have at least one fewer class that I have to do this semester than last semester's, because then that helps the numbers even out as far as how many credits I would need year on year. Right now I'm looking at getting to around the average 30 per year. And as far as like the actual classes themselves, I mean, they're pretty interesting. But with every semester, I find there's always something that just does not plain Jane make sense. So, for example, I've talked about I'm pursuing a political science degree. We can make jokes already about how useless that sort of thing is, but, I believe in the inherent value of education. I'm sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent here. The point is, things that don't make sense with classes or with degrees and such. And would you ever think that for a social sciences degree, even if we, acknowledge that it is social sciences, that you'd ever need to know how to code? I didn't think I would need to know how to code for my degree. That is, like, I thought I would be doing, actual just, like, studying of things, as far as, like, the concepts. Like, this is what this country does. I mean, I imagine I would need to look at data. I didn't think I would need to code data. So that's a strange thing. And, there's always the ever classic class that like where the professor doesn't do much, but you're expected to do a lot. And, for me, that's astronomy. I mean, I guess in practice I really don't have to do a ton, but he's kind of run into the same problem that one of my professors the last semester had too, which is having the most dry, boring lectures to have to sit through. It's not fun. Well, and then, speaking of weird things, like a weird thing that happened with that class in particular is just like, usually you expect everything to be set out by the first week, like, okay, this is when we're gonna do these things, and here are all the things you need to be available for. Especially with an online class, if, it's important to know, do I need to be available at this particular day and time of the week? No, instead we're gonna start having a live section during the 5th week of class. What? Why? That was it. It was bizarro to me, because already I had gone through just about, well, I guess at that point it would have been approximately a third of the class, and it's like, okay, I basically just have to do these assignments and watch the lectures and read the stuff, and I should be fine. Especially because it was weird, because I had planned at the start of the semester that's like I would have to go to this live thing, and then when we didn't do it for the first 4 weeks, I didn't think there would be a live thing, and lo and behold, all of a sudden there's a live thing. Weird. Professors, make sure everything is set out at the start of the class. That's the bottom line here. If a lot of my other feedback is too much to ask for, that is certainly not too much to ask for. I do have a production update. But before I do that, I think I want to touch on a couple of other fun things that I didn't have written here. Mostly like, background items. I'm sure everyone sees, if they're watching the video version of the podcast on youtube.com rather than listening to it at anchor.fm/THECOP, they can see that there is more amiibo in the background. And indeed, there are some that are off to the side here that you probably can't see. They might be trailing off into the distance, and That's always an exciting sort of thing to see the collection continue to grow. I promise these will eventually get out of the boxes. It just comes down to when am I going to have a more permanent place of residence post-college once I finally have, like, a job where it's just me living in a place where I can trust that nothing's going to happen to my amiibo figurines. Speaking of other things, I really wish I could figure out a better angle for this. Like, even if I could just move the camera back like another foot or two, because I do have some nice, like, things in front of me that you just can't see because I'm trying to get a nice background with all this stuff in it, but I can't show off some of my fun stuff. And speaking of fun stuff, this is a recent purchase I got that whenever I get a bigger space, or, well, at least a space that I can more densely pack, I hope to put in the background. So let me just pull it up here. Those of you in the audio world won't be able to see it, obviously, because audio is not visual, but I will have to describe it to you. This, if I can try to get it decently enough, is the 40th anniversary Pac-Man quarter-sized arcade cabinet from, they keep rebranding the name of the store, but I think now it's Just Geek as of March of 2021. But the brand that does all of this stuff is Numbskull, and that's something that I hope to get in the background. I've tried it out a teeny-weeny bit, and, I mean, it's Pac-Man, so it's kind of hard to screw up Pac-Man, other than not including the arcade ROM, but they did, because it's an arcade machine. So that's something that I hope to get in the background. I think I've always wanted something like that. I mean, really, I think every gamer wants to have a full-size cabinet, but I'm not quite that ridiculous. But if I can have a tiny one, that's cool. But I guess I should get into the serious meat and potato piece of this introduction, which is the single production update. And I kind of jokingly talked about it at the start of here, but clearly one of the main problems with the good old C.O.P. during the semester time is, basically doesn't exist. It only really exists during not semester time. Let's put it like this. I'm 6 weeks into the semester, just about to enter the 7th, just about halfway, and finally I get to make another episode. So since the summer is going to be coming up, we're in March now, summer's just about, 2-3 months away, and I swear that this summer I'm going to have time available, because, now I'm prepared for a COVID-19 ridden summer compared to last year. I've had an idea tossing around in my head, and trust me, this is probably going to sound confusing at first, so bear with me. I'm not sure. I want to have some sort of visual that might make this a little clear. If this doesn't happen in this episode, there will be a visual prepared for the first summer episode that better explains this. So every week, as far as my actual working at an employer schedule, I want to block off 2 days that from working there. I'm assuming it's going to be Monday, and then it's either going to be Thursday or Friday. And the reason I want to do that is I want to leave those days for two purposes. One, I want to do some more exercise on those days, because, I think I talked about it a little bit in episode 7 here, which is that, everyone around the new year wants to exercise a little more. I've got this, set of pedals you can't see over here that I've been kind of using when I'm able to do so. But, I want to do more serious exercise as far as, hey, when it's warm and there's no more snow on the ground, actually seriously maybe going on a bike. What a novel idea, right? And I was also thinking, I've been wanting to get back into doing golf, and that would, of course, actually have me using my arms a little bit. And it's mostly walking, too, which is still good. But, it's a nice, slower-paced sport. It's better for Brandon to do that, especially with, asthma and allergies and all that stuff. But I'm getting off track. That's not the important part. The important part is how that affects the podcast. So on those on that Monday, and I'm going to decide Thursday or Friday when the time comes. The other thing I want to do though on those days is podcast work. And the goal that I have for me is to set out, is to have bi-monthly episodes, by which I mean an episode should come out once every 2 weeks. And that word is BS, but that's beside the point. Link to the video that I'm trying to reference here as a card, I'm sure. But the reason I want to have 2 days off is because I plan to record 2 episodes in a single week. And that might sound confusing, like, okay, well, why are we having an episode come out every 2 weeks if you're recording 2 episodes, right? And the reason for that is I want to make, okay, hold on, I'm missing a piece of the puzzle here. Okay, so we've got our Monday and our Thursday or Friday where I record 2 episodes, right? And in that week, that's the recording week. The following week is an editing week. And the reason I want to record 2 episodes is so that episode that I'm recording on Monday releases that following week by the end of it. And then that episode that's from Thursday or Friday, the idea there is I want to have a set of more themed, not newsy type episodes that I can have as a backlog to release during the fall semester. Okay, so if we're on Monday here, I'm going to record, like, here's a new episode with news and information in it, and potentially just themed topics, just for the sake of it, that are shorter, that will come out in the near future. And then a couple days later, I'm going to record one of these themed episodes. So, like, I've got a list of 5 ideas in my head so far. I need at least 7, because the goal for the fall semester is to keep doing that, like, 2-week schedule. And it works out because, a college semester is 14 to 16 weeks, so I would have just about enough to get me through the fall semester for sure. If I just preview one of these ideas, there's like, I have 4 anniversary themed episodes, because they're like, I did not realize how many things happened in years ending in 1 or 6 that were important for me as a video gamer. So one of these ideas I had rolling around in my head as an anniversary episode is to do an Ace Attorney themed episode, because this year is the 20th anniversary. The game came out in October 2001 in Japan, but I would just record, like, the topics, or, like, the segments and the conclusion, because one of the things I was thinking about was, well, if I record the introduction and I'm talking all throughout this about something, and then something along the way changes, like, so far, as of today, March 5th, there is no news about what's happening for the Ace Attorney 20th anniversary, or if there is going to be anything at all. But if I were to record that in June or July or whenever the heck it gets recorded, and then by the time I release it in October, all of a sudden we have, like, a new collection, and I'm talking all throughout the episode about, like, yeah, there isn't even, like, a collection of 4, 5, and 6 on modern consoles, and then all of a sudden there is, I'd want to have that intro, like a brand new intro that I record the week that, or like the week before it's going to come out, to be like, hey, just so you know, I'm talking all throughout this, about like, X has not happened, but now I have news that this has happened, okay? So that way, it's like, if there is news that I want to talk about, I can include that, and then I can just update any outdated information. And then, of course, like I said, like, the main benefits of doing this sort of thing bi-monthly over the course of the semester is that if I have a week set aside for editing, that means I can, like, I mean during the summer, if I have that week set aside for editing, it's like I can put everything together, except for the intro and the video and the audio versions, like, really quickly, and then I'd already have the segments edited all together, so I can just hopefully pretty easily put all that stuff out by the time the fall semester comes around. And clearly I don't really, I've said this many times, I don't really have an audience right now that where I can put this out as like a poll, like, hey, does this sound like a good idea, or how do you feel about it? Um, but this, yeah, I've workshopped it to people around me. I've kind of explained it and heard what they think, and I think it's a good idea because I would rather have something come out during the fall rather than have nothing come out during the fall, even if it's not doing things exactly the way that I would want to do it, which is doing the entirety of production in like a span of a week or two, right? And then the other problem with it too is that it isn't. I can't exactly replicate that for the following spring semester because the winter break is only 4 weeks long, so I'd only be able to record a maximum of 4 episodes, and that's assuming that I wouldn't release any during the winter break either. So, at the very least, the idea is that should get me through the rest of 2021, unless, something else in the world goes completely haywire, like the apocalypse. But I don't intend on that happening. But with all that said, I think we're ready to go into the topic rundown for this episode. We're going to be talking about God, I can't speak, apparently. We're going to be discussing Pyra and Mythra, who are the brand new characters added to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. They were quite literally revealed, or at least they had their whole detailed presentation yesterday. I wanted to do a beginner's introduction to choosing the game hardware for you. So just an intro into hey, here's kind of what I would recommend if you're just starting to get into gaming. I had an idea for a segment that I occasionally want to do on the best and worst of board games, because I was thinking about it, where it's with Clubhouse games. Clearly, I did not realize how much I do enjoy just classic style tabletop games. I don't really like playing them in person so much, or at least I haven't during my teen years. I'm hoping that might change as I get older, I'm not sure. But today I want to do a discussion on what I think is one of the worst of board games, and that is the game of Sorry. And finally, I want to give a discussion on my experiences with a new collection I've built. You're not going to see it here, but trust me, there will be footage of it. I have started a small record collection. I'm not entirely sure also, I guess, what B-roll is going to look like for all of these, especially for the Smash one, because I can't record Smash footage. I'm sure people who've watched the segments have noticed that there's a distinct lack of B-roll, but because I don't have a capture card, but thankfully the Switch at least has its built-in capture function. But I guess I'm getting a little off track here. Suffice to say, there's going to be some B-roll, and I have a special idea for B-roll during the last couple of topics. But I guess if there's really any benefit to having a trouble with B-roll, is that it makes editing this a whole lot more quicker. It makes it a lot easier for the episode to come out. Anyway, we should move directly into today's topics.